What is the stupidest way you've injured yourself? Threw a grape in the air to catch it in my mouth. It fell on the floor and I bent down to pick it up and smashed my face into the window sill. That actually made me laugh. Sorry. I got out of a long, hot shower and noticed a thread dangling off of my shirt, and when I tried to pull it out it just neatly sliced through several millimeters of my finger. It was so minor I can hardly even call it an injury, but getting cut by a shirt is definitely the stupidest I've had. Stabbed myself in the leg with a piece of metal. It was really thin and tapered at the tip, so when you swung it you would hear this really cool whoosh sound. I swung down way too hard and it went right into my shin. Bad times. I did this but I swung up instead. Ripped my forehead. I found my dad's EpiPen one day while looking for mouth spray for sore throats. It obviously wasn't what I was looking for, but I wanted to figure out how it worked. I ended up shooting the needle clear through my thumb. I then hid the evidence of my stupidity and never told my mom until years later. I'm sure your heart was racing for multiple reasons, not even counting the epinephrine. So luckily, since it went straight through, most of the epinephrine oozed out the needle and out onto my hand. My heart was racing significantly regardless because, needle through the thumb, but I always suspected a bit got into my open wound. Considering I was a less than 100-pound 10-year-old and the pen was meant for a 200-pound man, I'm very, very grateful I didn't get the full injection. Not me, but a babysitter when I was about 6. She was watching me and my 1-year-old brother, and went snooping in my dad's stuff. He was military, in a job that stood alerts often, and he kept a gas mask and such in a go bag at home. This 16-year-old screwed around and injected herself with an atropine auto-injector in the hand. Her screams alerted me. I called the club my parents were at and told them. They called an ambulance. The sitter was almost unconscious when they took her away as my parents got home. I still remember the weird color she turned. That's horrifying for you. Was she okay? She was fine afterwards. I think now it was mostly shock and horror. It sure freaked me out. I was in the 4th or 5th grade, but I jumped down an entire flight of stairs. Landed hard and hurt my foot. Walked on it for a day or two afterwards. Turned out I shattered my heel and broke my ankle. Hey, I did that same thing. In college. R/drunk or a kid? Was helping husband replace the bathroom fan, so I was standing on the side of the bathtub. I had this plastic hook glued to the shower wall to hang a loofah on. I went to get down and slid down the wall and hooked my butt cheek to the wall. It hurt so bad but was also hilarious. I'm in my 40s and this happened recently. I bent over while having a shower and gouged a hole above my tailbone on the bath tap. This happened to one of my very intoxicated friends in high school. A bunch of us rented a beach house, and she did this. She came running out of the bathroom completely naked, screaming for her boyfriend. She ran to the freezer and grabbed some ice cubes and held them against her asshole as she collapsed onto the hallway floor, simultaneously laughing and crying. Other dumb injuries from that trip: very bruised, possibly broken nose from opening the hot tub cover too quickly, very bruised, possibly broken knuckles from trying to open a coconut with brass knuckles. I live in Minnesota, so I am used to kicking snow off my boots by slamming my toe part of the boot down on the ground. Well, it was summer and I happened to get my running shoes absolutely covered in mud, so I instinctively slammed my toes down on the pavement and broke 4 toes. I broke a rib by coughing too hard. I'm just getting over the flu. Did the same thing. Shot myself in the eye with a Nerf gun. I looked into the barrel to see if it was loaded. I was 8. Sounds like a super villain backstory. And that's how I became Bozo, the one-eyed moron. When I was a kid we had blue carpet in the living room. I had just watched some movie or show where the characters jumped into a painting and I started thinking maybe if I believed really hard, the blue carpet would turn into a vast ocean. So I climbed up on the recliner and swan dove into the floor. To try to get a cheap laugh out of my ex, I threw a hammer as hard as I could at a tree. The hammer bounced off the tree, and I turned just in time for it to hit me in the small of my back. Miracle I'm not paralyzed. Thank goodness you weren't throwing an axe. I had no idea a hammer would even bounce off a tree. I thought it would just hit and drop to the ground. Didn't think it'd ricochet right back at my back. It didn't. That tree threw it right back. The person you were trying to impress saw the tree throw it but couldn't say anything because who would believe that? Oh boy, my time to shine. Age 2, stuck a nail in an electrical socket. 3, ran into a telephone pole while riding my bicycle. Age 7, was playing with a razor blade that my dog had pulled out of the trash and completely sliced off the tip of my finger. Promptly passed out and was found hours later by my mom coming home from night shift. Please don't ask why. I was 7 and very impulsive. 16, had wisdom teeth out. Apparently anesthesia stays in my system longer than normal? A few days go by and I'm sitting in the dining room talking to my mom. Everything starts going black and I manage to utter, oh, before smashing jaw first onto the tile floor. One side of my face was swollen, I looked a bit like a chipmunk. 18, went to grab something out of the trunk of my car. My car was parked in the driveway, which is at a bit of a slope. Reached in to grab something, which I have done many times before with the car parked exactly like it was, and the trunk slammed down onto the back of my head. Nice little gash, lots of blood. I managed to make it inside before passing out that time. 20, cleaning kitchen. Go to drain the water after washing dishes, and the sink strainer is stuck. Really stuck. I'm trying to pull it out with brute strength, and manage to slice my hand open on it instead. This time I puked instead of fully losing consciousness. 29, decide to be Betty Crocker and bake homemade bread. The Pyrex either shattered when I took it out of the oven and it hit cold air, or I dropped it. It happened rather quickly so I'm not exactly sure. But I ended up with glass in my foot. I've just moved here, I know very few people, and my spouse has gone out of town for work. I have 2 small children and 3 big dogs running around the house, glass literally from the front door to the back door. Managed to get a hold of a neighbor, who takes me to the where they attempt to remove it. Notice I said, attempt. They sent me home with glass in my foot and told me to contact a podiatrist. They were sure it was stuck in bone or a ligament. I had glass in my foot for 20 hours total. 3 stitches. 3 weeks in a boot. Not fun times. I now wear house shoes in the kitchen. 30, walking across the playground. No holes in the ground, just a normal wood chip covered playground surface, and managed to fracture a bone spur on the top of my foot, requiring surgery months later. Luckily, I already had a podiatrist. Jesus. That was an adventure. I suggest a large plastic bubble. Looking forward to hearing about the next bubble-related injury. Bubble gets shattered and goes through his neck.